What up, everybody? It's your boy Aaron coming to you with another episode of First and Faithful. In today's episode, we're going to go over some of the most underrated players who will not only shape this season, but might have a huge impact for future seasons going forward. But before we get into that, if you could do me a favor, take 2 seconds, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate all your support on these videos. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much. But let's jump right into it. Now, JerickMcKinnon is someone I had on this list even before the Raheem Mostert trade demands. Someone I thought was underrated, very much a key to kind of how this offseason, even the regular season and kind of going forward would happen. Then Raheem Mostert came out with his trade demands, and it made JerickMcKinnon even more important in the grand scheme of things. We all know McKinnon's story, if you're even a casual fan, was Lynch and Shanahan's first really huge free agent signing of their regime. Injured himself, before he even saw a regular season snap his first year. Last year, re-injured himself. Literally has not played a regular season snap for the Niners. Obviously he was seen as this perfect fit for the Shanahan offense. We haven't been able to see that. Took a big pay cut this offseason to stick with the Niners. Shanahan clearly still believes in them. Lynch still believes in him. So what he does this season, why he is, to me, so important this offseason and going into the regular season, is if he is healthy, which we've seen some videos of him cutting, doing that kind of work, looks good, looks like he's still fast. I mean, his nickname's the Jet, still looks fast, still looks like he can cut. But if he is healthy this season, if he is able, the ripple effect that has, is pretty big. Mostert, his trade demands, maybe the team, he may be a trade deadline candidate, Mostert. If McKinnon is healthy, I believe that if McKinnon is healthy and able, he becomes the lead back, I believe. Mostert goes back to that secondary role. Coleman becomes kind of maybe the bruiser, kind of like you saw it this season. But I believe McKinnon becomes the quote-unquote lead back in the system. Mostert goes back to his number 2 role. So that kind of sorts itself out. Mostert's demands become moot because he is no longer the lead back. He's more of a kind of a backup, maybe, not change of pace, but kind of a backup. He, gets 6 carries a game, that kind of running back. So his demands for higher salary, all that becomes moot at that point. He becomes a trade candidate. So does Coleman. Going into next season is where it gets interesting. The only running backs on that are under contract going into 2021 right now are Mostert, JaMycal Hasty, and Salvon Ahmed, the 2 rookies, free agent rookies they got, undrafted free agent rookies they picked up this last off season. So how McKinnon plays, how healthy he is, might go a long way in determining how that running back room looks going into next season. Like I said, has a huge effect on Mostert, probably the biggest effect on Mostert. I don't think anybody expects Coleman to come back to the Niners next season unless he takes a massive pay cut. I assume he will be somewhere else next season. But as far as Mostert goes, if he keeps his demands, whether McKinnon's healthy really affects that. McKinnon comes back and is not healthy, hurts his knee again, what have you. They may be, I don't want to say forced to pay Mostert, but it definitely might impact their thinking if McKinnon comes out, training camp, bam, blows out his knee again. That may have a huge impact on whether or not they then rework Mostert's deal as he wants. So for me, like I said, hugely underrated. How he comes back, how he, if he can stay healthy and how he looks on the field. Like I said, huge impact not only this season but next season as well. Taylor and Hurd represent kind of the same thing that McKinnon represents. Guys who, when healthy, have shown that, have shown flashes of what they can do, what they can be for the offense. But obviously health is an issue. Taylor with his foot, Hurd with his back. They both have been clear, both look healthy. We've seen Taylor in the offseason, doing his work. Looks great, looks so quick. I mean, just insanely fast in and out of his breaks. Foot looks, brand new basically. Hurd, we've seen practice this offseason, getting in some work. He's supposed to be fine with his back. Obviously we saw Taylor when Jimmy G first came to the Niners. We saw the connection they had immediately. He was kind of Jimmy's go-to guy on third down, the money downs, and we saw what he could do. Hurd, we saw what he could do in that preseason game against the Cowboys last season. Just gives them something different. That big, physical but athletic receiver. We saw him catch that fade route. We saw him just, kind of bully his way into the end zone on his first touchdown. Like I said, catch that fade route for a second touchdown. So he gives them that, and somebody that Shanahan can use, right? Played running back in college, also played receiver. So I'm sure someone that Shanahan can kind of scheme in different ways. Almost maybe a slower receiver, super fast tight end, kind of a tweener like that you can really see Shanahan, using in a lot of very unique ways. But again, the health is, issue. But assuming they're able to duplicate their skill set on the field again, two guys that obviously, if they're able to do that, has a ripple effect in the receiver room. Obviously, Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Bourne are almost locks. Deebo and Ayuk definitely are locks. Bourne's pretty much a lock. There's only so many spots left. You have Juan Jennings. If they carry 7, it gets crowded very quickly. And the question will be, if they come back, they're healthy, they look great on the field. What does that do for Pettis? Does that force Pettis into a situation where basically, if he doesn't challenge Richie James Jr. for a role on special teams, punt returner, which he was great at in college, does he get, release, cut, or part of a trade package perhaps? So again, these are two guys people are excited to see back, but I think are just underrated in terms of what, the effect they'll have on the team this season. If they don't come back healthy, they get hurt, does that force the team to play Pettis more? Does that, with Deebo being hurt, does that, force Shanahan's hand in terms of maybe a trade? Those kind of things all kind of now factor into that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for the team. Greylon is someone who obviously burst on the scene last season, filling in for Quan Alexander when he got hurt. Got better as the season went on. Made that great interception against Russell Wilson in that overtime classic. Got better. Obviously made the defensive play of the game, or the year, against Seattle in Week 17. Locking up the 1 seed for the Niners. And you just saw, like I said, you saw him get better as the season went on. Really, when you talk about next man up, really embodied that. Just kind of walked in, took over. It was a great fit for what Saleh and the Niners want to do defensively. So you want to see like this, second season leap. Fred Warner did that. He was pretty good his first season. You could see the skill. Last season, his second season, you saw the leap. I mean, he's easily a top 10 linebacker. Just checks pretty much all the boxes. Looking for Greenlaw to do the same thing, and that accomplishes two things. One, obviously, makes the defense that much better. If he takes that next leap, a little more familiarity with the system, another offseason with the playbook, etc. Between Warner, Greenlaw, and a healthy Alexander, I mean, that's an insanely great linebacking core. So you can see that defense take that next step. So that's the impact immediately this season. Next season, going to the off season, the impact of him taking that next step is that the salary cap is getting tighter. We're seeing that with the Kittle deal, and the issues with Mostert. They obviously the Niners kind of have to look down the line a little bit. Bosa, Fred Warner, Sherman's deal's done after this season. They got to kind of start looking down the line. McGlinchey's going to be coming up. Look down the line, salary cap implications, try to save where they can. And this is where Greenlaw comes in, because if he makes that next step, it makes, Alexander, who has a pretty large contract the next couple of years, basically expendable next offseason. If they release Alexander post June 1st, it's a savings of $13.4 million on the cap. That's obviously huge. And that's, kind of predicated on how Greenlaw does this season. I mean, Alexander may be gone regardless, but obviously if he makes that next leap, it makes that decision that much easier. I got 4 names for you: DJ Reed, Tim Harris, DeMarcus Acey, and Jermaine Kelly. These are the only 4, or the only DBs that are on contract past this season for the 49ers. I don't know about you, it doesn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence in me. And that's where Keller, Witherspoon, and Emmanuel Mosley come in. Obviously, Mosley stepped in great last season when Witherspoon suffered. Kind of seemed, his confidence wasn't there. I'm not sure what was happening. Witherspoon, obviously, the first, until he got hurt in the early part of the season, was on a nice trajectory. He was playing out of his mind. Looked like he was the guy we thought he was going to be. Got hurt, came back, and was just never seemed to be the same. Was the starter going into the Minnesota game in the playoffs and just, gave up a long touchdown to Diggs. And that was kind of it. He got the hook, Mosley came in, and then it was after that, it was Mosley's job to lose, basically, after that. I was at that Vikings game, and as soon as he gave up the touchdown, he had a pass interference before that, and you could kind of hear the stadium kind of rumbling, like, oh my God, get this guy out of here. And as soon as he gave up the touchdown, everybody was like, get this guy off the field. Put Mosley in. He's played great. Why is Witherspoon even out there? So both of them are really key this season. There's not a lot of depth, period. Not even, forget about next year, just this season. It's Sherman, it's Witherspoon, it's Mosley, Witherspoon, Sherman. Verrett, who knows if that guy will ever see the field again. He plays 2 plays and gets hurt. There's not a lot of depth at that position. It's a position that the Niners didn't address in the draft, even though a lot of people thought they would, just because of contract situations and etc. They didn't address that in the draft. They have picked up a couple of free agents, but knowing that you're expecting to be a starter per se, fill-in guy. Quan, obviously, great. Juan Williams, great, nickel slot corner, not an outside guy. So that's where Witherspoon, Mosley, you like to see him step up. Witherspoon, especially. Mosley, not so much. I know a lot of people give him a lot of heat for giving up the 3rd and 15 in the Super Bowl. But overall, I think he really solidified that number 2 corner position outside of Sherman. I'd love to see him get another chance. I honestly kind of don't care who gets the position. If it's, if Witherspoon comes back this offseason and is the best guy, can revert back to the form we saw at the early part of the season, that's even better. If Mosley becomes your 3rd corner, that's not a bad thing. And that's something I think with this team is huge. If Sherman were to suffer a long-term injury, or Mosley, there is not a lot of depth. And so you really are going to need both Mosley, both Witherspoon to step up. And then going into next season, how is that going to play out? Can maybe you get, will Mosley give you a discount maybe if he has a really good season again this season? Can you get a little bit of discount from him, if you try to sign him to a longer term deal? Same with Witherspoon. If, depending on what Sherman decides to do, maybe they, who knows what they do with Sherman? Who knows what kind of contract he's going to ask for? Maybe a smaller one. A lot of moving pieces on that. And again, that's why Witherspoon and Mosley, very important this season and, going into future seasons. Right guard is the one position going into this season that's kind of up for grabs on the 49ers O-line. Left tackle Trent Williams, left guard Tomlinson, center Richburg, right tackle McGlinchey. Right guard is the one position that's up for grabs after Ben Pearson was let go by the team and then retired right after. But if we're being honest, obviously Pearson not all that great. I think the best thing he gave us was this picture from the Washington game right there. Pretty awesome shot. Besides that, not the best guard. Daniel Brunskill came in, played pretty well actually. Outside of that Rams game, against Aaron Donald, which obviously everybody kind of plays bad against Aaron Donald, had a very good, for being just kind of thrown in there, had a very good season. Is clearly the front runner going into this season. Tom Compton was brought in as a free agent. Ross Reynolds was also brought in to kind of compete. But, I think the feeling is it is Brunskill's job to lose. But having that right guard in place to solidify that line, it is a pretty good line. And if we can avoid, if the team can avoid, the issues they had last season. McGlinchey missed 4 games, I believe. Staley missed multiple games. That kind of in, out. School had to play, Brunskill had to play. That rotation of multiple, you saw what happens when you have a line that can pretty much stay healthy the whole season. You saw it with the Rams 2 seasons ago. I think that line played something like 5% of the snaps together, 95% of the snaps plus. You saw how great that team was. Then you saw what happened last season when they had some injuries on the line, how it really affected everything. And if the Niners were pretty damn good last season offensively. Think of what would happen if, they had the entire line together for the whole season. How much better they could be, how much better the run game is going to be, how much better the passing game is going to be. Garoppolo did take a decent amount of sacks. Some was his fault, but there were a decent amount that were on the line. And the Super Bowl is a pretty good example as well. And you think, man, if you solidify that line, how much better can this entire team be? And that's why this, between these 3, whoever gets the job and can lock it down, is a huge piece of this season and where this team goes, especially offensively. So there you go, faithful. That's my list of underrated players that I think will greatly shape not only this season, but future seasons to come. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the players I listed. Let me know if you have any players you want to add to that list, who's going to win some of the position battles I mentioned, etc. Thank you as always for watching. I'm Aaron, and this is First and Faithful. Have a great one.